Welcome back to another episode of Timeout with the Sports Doctor podcast, where life, sports, and medicine intersects. We are glad that you are part of this growing community where we strive to help you strengthen your mindset, help you grow your assets, and help you achieve whatever level of success that you want for your life. Go to our website at Dr.Derrick, thesportsdoctor.com, where you can find all the latest content, and you can also follow us on our social media channels. Now, let's get into this episode. So welcome back to another episode of Timeout with the Sports Doctor podcast. And it's been a minute. I'm glad to be able to sit before you today for a solo episode, because it's been a minute since I've just sat here and shared with you about some things that are going on in my life, and just things that I've developed over the podcast for the last several months. We've been blessed with some very excellent guests over the last few weeks and last few months, and I'm very grateful for them. But I really appreciate the time to just sit down and share with you about some of my thoughts, feelings, and things that are going on in my life as well. So, we are well over 3.25 months since I first started recording this podcast in 2021. And a lot has changed in that time. New job. Now I have 2 children in middle school, just continuing to grow and continuing to be more demanding of my time, to be honest. And, just continuing to develop myself personally this year. So I've mentioned here and there about the Next Level Speakers Academy, which I've joined this year. So I've put on a lot of work to develop myself as a keynote speaker, as well as a workshop facilitator. So I've been doing a lot over this last 8 to 9 months, a lot of things behind the scenes, and I've been juggling a lot, as well as growing a practice at work and trying to be present at home, trying to make sure that we always have quality episodes on this podcast. And it's actually becoming a little bit overbearing. So I just want to be open with you and honest with you, because it's only so many things you can do at one time and do them with excellence. And I was in a church service a couple of months back, and he was saying that, if the devil can't get you to sin, he can get you with busyness. And I was like, ooh, that might be talking to me. And it's just been time after time after time over these last few months. I'm involved in conversations, or I'm talking to people, even interviewing people on this podcast, and they'll share things. We'll talk about how time is so important, and how, being able to be focused is so important. And really, over these last few episodes, it's almost turned some like coaching sessions, where I've had people reach back to me and tell me that they've had kind of epiphanies while they were on this podcast, and realized that they had to take some time back, and realized they had to take a step back and really just kind of get grounded again. And it's fine to be able to give out advice and talk to other people, but it's tough when you have to take your own advice, right? And I think that's really where I am. I have somebody in my inner circle, I guess you'll call him an accountability partner, who, it was exactly 2 months ago, sent me a text message. And I don't know why it was sent on that day, but the text said, how do you rate yourself in these 3 aspects: mentally, physically, and spiritually? And I was like, dang, why'd you ask me that right now? Because right now I can't even give myself the grade that I would typically do on a regular day, because right now it's a bad day, but you asked me that now. And he was asking for a reason, because he cared. But when you start to see that, mentally, physically, emotionally, how are you doing? Spiritually, how are you doing? I realized at that point that I was so busy that I was neglecting some of those things, right? And when you start to neglect those things, it doesn't matter how well the outward appearance looks. It's only so long you're going to be able to maintain it. So at that point, I wasn't happy with the score I was able to give myself. I'd already started to think about it. Okay, I got to get back in shape. I have to start doing my devotions. I need to start back reading. I need to start back doing certain things that keep me grounded and keep me healthy. And that was just a reminder. And then just today, I'm listening to a sermon, and the pastor was talking about how, he's doing a lot of different things and doing them good standard, but somebody that was able to observe pulled him over and said that you are satisfactory underperforming. And I was like, dang, what does that mean? But I can totally relate to being satisfactory underperformance, meaning that it looks good to everyone. I know that when I still release a podcast episode, it's quality. I've listened to some of the last few. I'm like, wow, these are really good. But I know behind the scenes what it looks like for me, what it looks like with me trying to do the things, reaching out to people to schedule episodes, doing these individual recordings, even going back, doing some of the editing work. I know what it feels like to me, and it's not how it used to feel 2 years ago. And despite the fact that I'm still releasing quality episodes, I'm not doing it to the best of my ability. And it's safe on a podcast, but it's not really safe when you start to realize mentally, physically, spiritually, you're underperforming. As healthcare providers, we spend a large portion of our lives focused on our training as well as taking care of other individuals. But I'm calling a timeout because life can change in an instant. We know it's difficult to fathom that a sudden illness, injury, or death could put you and your family in a devastating financial situation. But that's where Dr. Stephanie Pearson and her unique team of advisors at Pearson Ravitz come into play. They focus on empowering physicians like yourself to protect your most valuable asset, your income, and life's most important people, your family. So go to pearsonravitz.com to make sure that you are protected today. This podcast is not coming to an end by any stretch of the imagination, but I need to take a step back because I have several things that I'm working on currently. I'm developing some new things. You'll see some new information or coming out about new branding as a personal speaker. I'm going to start talking about sharing more as a speaker, even more so than a podcaster. So you're going to see some new logos, new website, some new reels promoting speaking. But I need to take some time to really start to develop this. So it's not something that's going to be done at a low level. I want to do this at the highest level. And being in Next Level Speaker Academy, it's really opened my eyes to the potential that I have, number one, but also into the work that it takes to really be on that elite level. By attending conferences with Dr. Eric Thomas, E.T., the hip hop preacher, as you'll know him by, Jeremy Anderson, Inky Johnson, I'm really seeing that it's much more to being a top-notch keynote speaker, top-notch motivational speaker than just having a good story. There's a business behind it, and that's really what I'm focused in now in developing that business aspect. And because of that, you're going to still hear from me. You're going to hear maybe even more from me on different platforms. But what I plan to do for this podcast in this next season is to start doing bi-weekly episodes. For the last 3+ years, you've gotten an episode every week. Over now, I believe it's 172 episodes every week. And I really just want to release myself from that. You might still get them weekly, but I don't want to be under the mental strain of thinking, okay, I have to release an episode every week. When I have something quality, it will be released. But if I don't have the time for it, we won't do it. So right now, what we're going to do is bi-weekly episodes. And I've also built a library of content over the last 3 years. And many of it you might have never heard of. So I want to do a better job of going back through some of these episodes and compiling episodes based off of certain themes, based off of some certain topics to make sure that you still get educated, still get information that's valuable for you, and be able to hear it from multiple sources. So that's one thing I plan to do as well. And then also starting to share more about my speaking journey. I've been blessed over these last 2 months alone to be able to do podium speeches, a 2-minute speech, which is really tough, but we'll talk about how the importance of that, a 10-minute speech. And then I was given the opportunity to do a 30-minute keynote speech at the National Medical Association. So that was a real blessing. And I want to share those with you so you can kind of see where I'm starting from, and then hopefully over the years be able to see the final product. So I'm excited about that. It's been really tough. I've literally juggled this episode in my mind for about the last 3 months. And I knew that it was something I needed to do, but I've gotten comfortable here again. And God doesn't really care for my comfort, but I've gotten comfortable being able to interview people. It's almost second nature. Now I barely write down. I write down their name and I research what they do. I don't even write down questions now because I've gotten to the point where I can sit here and interview someone and listen to them and listen to the conversation develop and still be able to ask pointed questions and questions that are being able to help them dig deeper and bring out good information for you as an audience. So I can check that box as a podcast interviewer now, but I have more to do. And really to do and reach the levels that I want to go to, I have to be a little more focused and a little more structured. And that's really what I'm trying to focus on right now. So that's it. More episodes are coming. Like I mentioned, we're going to do it bi-weekly now instead of every week for this next season as I develop more on the side with the keynote speaking. So if you have any questions, comments, if you want to reach out to me, please do so. I'm always open to your feedback, and I'm always open to hear from you. You're very valuable. I appreciate when people reach out to me. I appreciate when people even reach out to me to say, hey, I want to be a guest. I want to be a part of what you're doing. So thank you for your support. Thank you for your continued support. And let's continue to grow together. That's all I have for now. Be blessed. Have a great week. Thank you for continuing to support this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then please leave a 5-star review. And if you haven't done so, subscribe so you continue to get the updated episode. Until later, peace.
Timeout with the sports doctor. Keep our head right in the game. We ain't never stopping. You are now tuned in. Trust you don't want to miss. This is where life, sports, and medicine